Hello and welcome to From Panels to Pictures. This is the movie and TV podcast for the Comic Crush. I am Paul. With me is the best spy in the world, Liz Jordan.
Hello.
How you doing, Liz?
Yeah, good.
It's great to see you. Back again after last week's Loki pod. Was it a week ago that we did that? Time doesn't have any meaning anymore. So today we're going to be talking about Black Widow. I've been dying to talk about this. We are running a bit late, as with the Loki pod on this. Sorry, we've had a lot of sort of personal and work commitments to take care of, so it meant that we couldn't do this. If you want to help us out, please do check out the Patreon or the web store, all of which kind of, will kind of keep us going and keep us in comics and means we can keep doing stuff like this. But yeah, Black Widow today. I'm really excited to talk about this one, not just because it's the first Marvel movie in 2 years, I think. So what was the last one? 2019? Late 2019? Spider-Man Far From Home?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of delays with this one. It was originally supposed to be out in 2020. COVID and various other factors meant that the film was delayed right up until now. We saw this in two different ways. Liz, you went to the movie theater to see it, right?
I did.
In the US. Okay. Did you go opening day?
Of course I did.
Right, yeah. That's a stupid question. Why am I even asking? I saw it opening night, I guess, but opening night on Disney Plus, which was about 2 days after. Because obviously going to the cinema in the UK is still a bit of a risky, not a risky proposition. There's no COVID risk, it seems, from cinemas. It's just that it's still an interesting experience where you've got to sit there for a couple of hours in a mask on. I'm not really there for that. I believe in the sort of mask wearing, but doing a whole movie is I find a bit difficult. So I chose to watch this on Disney Plus. I'm going to give you a quick synopsis. Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, confronts the darker parts of her ledger when a dangerous conspiracy with ties to her past arises. Pursued by a force that will stop at nothing to bring her down, Natasha must deal with her history as a spy and the broken relationships left in her wake long before. So that's a good kind of sum up of what the movie is, sort of on an emotional level. So, Liz, going into this, I'm sure you were thrilled because, as we said, first Marvel movie in 2 years.
Long awaited, yeah. I mean, I mean, it's really nice to. I mean, obviously, different experience to you, but for me, it was really nice to be back in the cinema.
Okay.
This is only the second movie I've seen since all the sort of COVID restrictions loosened up here. Now, when I went to
what was the first?
I went to see Quiet Place 2.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, now in the cinema that I went to, in my part of the country, you didn't have to wear a mask.
Right.
Masks are optional as long as you're vaccinated, which I am.
I think we've shifted. We may have shifted to that over here. I'm unsure. I'm not really checking. I've got to be honest. The kind of cinema experience is sort of waning for me. I'm not sure if I'm going back to cinemas or not. I think there's some things I'm going to have to, like, so Suicide Squad is coming up, so I think I have to go back and for us to be able to record the pod on that, I kind of have to go to a cinema to see that. But I have lost a bit of interest in the cinema experience for various reasons, not just because of COVID, but anyway, sorry. Please,
for me, like,
on.
That's the place to see a movie like Black Widow.
Okay.
That's the place to see any like, the Suicide Squad, like any big like spectacle. For me, is a cinema going experience still. Right. So I was thrilled with that. And it was loads of fun to see it on the big screen. And in a room full of people who obviously, had obviously been, waiting. Just like I had to see it. And, the U.S. audiences are very, emotive, You know, they get very wrapped up in the spectacle, and they clap and they cheer, and you know, so it was that sort of thing, and it's, you know, it's an infectious feeling. So I enjoyed that, and there was plenty of room for that in this movie. There was a lot of, you know, moments to kind of whoop and cheer and that sort of thing. So, so that was a lot of fun.
So yeah, like I said, I brought it on Disney Plus. I really enjoyed seeing it that way. That there was a comfort level, which of course you can't get at a lot of cinemas because, you know, the seating is what the seating is. I was very happy just sitting on the couch, with my feet up, eating my dinner, watching this movie. So the full 5-star experience for me. It was a delicious meal cooked by myself, hand delivered to my chair by myself. Yeah, so I really kind of enjoyed that. In looking at the film itself, when you came out of it, obviously I know you're excited going in. When you came out, were you still as excited?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, there were things I really loved about it, and you know, it left me in you know, in the place of really wanting to see what is going to happen next. You know, especially when we get to that little teaser at the end,
which we will talk about as we progress through the thing. So, I mean, in the beginning of the movie, I went in not sort of kind of knowing what was going to happen, but not fully. You know, we start in Ohio in 1995. Also, I guess as the scenes progressed in that sort of flashback sequence at the beginning, I realized that, of course, this must be set just after Captain Marvel, because we see as the scene progresses SHIELD vehicles, and of course SHIELD hadn't quite formed at the end of Captain Marvel, but was just about to be. Am I right in saying that? I mean, I'm going by a memory of seeing Captain Marvel just the once at cinema. So
yeah, I would think that it would be set post Captain Marvel. I can't remember what year in the 90s Captain Marvel is supposed to be set, though. So someone can jump in and correct me. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
I thought it was 95. So again, that I could be wrong.
I mean, Shield's been around for, you know, long before Captain Marvel, though. So.
Oh wait, yes, of course it has, because of Peggy Carter. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's me not doing my Marvel homework as always.
Right.
Sorry, guys, I'm an idiot. But yeah, so that opening scene, I quite liked. Of course, we see Natasha Romanoff first of all, but not as we know of. You know. Played by an actress called Eva Anderson. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Eva Anderson, but her parents are the director Paul W.S. Anderson. No, not Paul Thomas Anderson.
I was going to get
a filmmaker, but a different filmmaker, Paul W.S. Anderson and Milla Jovovich. So in a way, there is a strong Russian connection, because, as I understand, Milla Jovovich is part Russian. Again, happy to be corrected on that. Which is interesting, and it's weird because looking at Scarlett Johansson, we know what Scarlett Johansson looked like as a teenager because she did a bunch of movies as a teenager. However, if you could take Scarlett Johansson now without knowing that and go, okay, show me what you think this kid would have looked like as a kid, or this woman would have looked like as a kid, I would totally pick Eva Anderson to be that. I think,
I think it was a really good casting choice. You know, and in the short time she was on screen, she gave a really good performance too.
Yeah, I really liked her and found her very kind of believable, and I hope that she'll go on and do more movies if that's what she wants to do. She's a very good actor. But you know, we also see Rachel Weisz, David Harbour. I don't know the name of the other kid playing Yelena.
Right, but she was cute as a button. She was, you know.
Yeah, she was lovely. And right away, you get that interesting dynamic set up. So it's revealed that, well, I mean, they don't really reveal it. They just let it kind of spill out for you. But they're Russian spies. David Harbour's there to infiltrate an American company. We don't know what they're making, what the deal is, but they're producing something that he's sabotaged. They're posing as a family. The interesting thing was right away it sets up that dynamic in that Rachel Weisz and Eva Anderson don't want to leave America, really. Like deep down, you can kind of see that in their characters. They're not really interested in going. I understand this did happen with some Russian sleeper agents in America where when they were finally activated, they were just not really prepared to do what they wanted to do. There is a long storied history of Russian family sleeper agents in America, which I was reading about the other day. It's quite fascinating stuff.
Have you watched The Americans?
No, but as I understand, it's quite similar to this, right? I mean,
yeah, like that's really what it reminded me of. You know, whereas they actually had their own biological kids and they were married. You know, the couple on that show, but
right.
Whereas this was like a family construct.
Yeah,
you know, none of them were actually related, but you know, it's the same kind of ingredients.
Yeah, and if you want to dive into that, it's worth diving into because it's a fascinating rabbit hole of quite dark stuff. And apparently there is a correlation for the Widow program in Russia. So, and in fact, there has been a movie about it. So there was a program called The Sparrows.
Right.
And we remember a few years back, the joke was, oh, look, 20th Century Fox have already made the Black Widow movie, which was Red Sparrow. And that author, I believe, did work for the CIA or has done some work for the CIA. And the things he were writing about were kind of lauded as being relatively accurate. I mean, I guess as accurate as you can get without being arrested for breaking any secrets. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm digressing all over the place. No, that's
interesting. Because I haven't seen that the Jennifer Lawrence movie Red Sparrow.
It's worth watching. It's very interesting. It's somewhat darker than this film, although I feel this film was quite dark. And we see the family try and escape. They've completed their mission. It's time for them to escape. David Harbour wants to get back to Russia. The younger Yelena also just thinks it's a big adventure and therefore is kind of wants to get back to Russia or wants to go on this big adventure. She doesn't really know. Yeah.
She doesn't know what's going on, really.
And they escape. And I actually really like this action sequence. I thought this was a great kind of sequence to start with. I thought it was incredibly well done. In looking at it, I was kind of scratching my head as to how, oh God, how's he staying on the wing of that plane? But of course, I forgot that by then he already is the Red Guardian.
Yeah, we see him like flip this humongous, I can't remember if it's a vehicle or some, just some big piece of machinery. So we can see that he's got superpowers.
Yeah.
Before he jumps on the wing of the plane, it's like, oh, okay, this guy's got super strength. So,
and beyond that, the scene actually is played in quite a grounded way, I felt.
Yeah.
And throughout, in a way, you've got probably one of the most grounded Marvel movies. Something akin to The Winter Soldier and even parts of Civil War. I do want to talk about where this movie is set.
Yes. Or when, rather?
Yeah, when.
Or, yeah.
So, we get to Russia or Cuba, and Yelena and Natasha are separated from their parents. Natasha is trying to protect Yelena. Melina, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Has been injured. Rachel Weisz's character has been injured. Ray Winston's character shows up as General Dreykov, who I believe does have correlations in the comic books. He's going to put Alexei. Well, we think he's going to put Alexei back to work as the Red Guardian. He isn't. And we see right from the beginning this sort of sense of betrayal from Dreykov, or sort of betrayal that Dreykov instigates against this family unit. They're not going to stay together as a family. Natasha and Yelena are packed off in the back of a truck somewhere. And we get something that I think we haven't, really see in a Marvel movie, which is a credit sequence. Like, I was really surprised.
Yeah, like and quite a dark one. It was like, I mean, this sort of like doom and gloom cover of Teen Spirit,
Which,
and
sorry, go on.
all of this like creepy, like sort of little girls being brainwashed, and then kind of a sequence of Black Widows throughout sort of semi-recent history, in the back of all these political sort of backdrops and everything.
And we see like Dreykov actually with US presidents and with Clinton, with Condoleezza Rice, and you get a sense that he's kind of been very much in the foreground, shaping world events. I was kind of expecting a Hydra connection throughout all this, but you don't actually get that. He does appear to be working for, yeah. I think by then it would have been the FSB, because I think the KGB was disbanded by then. But there's some fascinating stuff there, and it does kind of pose an interesting, because one of the things that the KGB apparently did was basically pack up all their agents and just send them off to run businesses. And again, there's a very storied history in the KGB of where we now end up in the world stage and why we've ended up there. And again, pretty dark stuff when you dig into it. But like, the credit sequence surprised me. It is an extremely well done sequence. The cover version of Smells Like Teen Spirit is great.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I believe the original lyrics to the opening of that song are "load up on guns and kill your friends," or "load up on drugs and kill your friends." It wasn't "load up on drugs and bring your friends." It was a lot darker song when it originally started, I believe. And I can't remember if it was like the record label that changed it. Someone who knows more about music will be able to chime in and hopefully comment in the comment section below and tell us. But my understanding is that if you go back to the very original version of that song, it's a lot darker.
Yeah, I had a copy of those notebooks of his, that got released a couple of years ago, and I'm sure there was the original lyrics for that, at least one version of them in there. So I'd be curious to go back and look.
But it's also curious because that plays out into the film itself, and I am curious to see why that song in particular was chosen. Because it became an anthem for teenagers everywhere. I mean, I remember having that album and playing it endlessly, playing it to death. I don't think I was a teenager then, though. I think I was probably just a bit older.
You had to be because that came out when I what came
out? No, but I'm old.
You're not that old. It came out in '93, I think. No, maybe 93 or 94. 93.
Right, so I was born in 75.
I mean, he died when I was 12.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I would have been. I would have been sort of in my very late, so I would have been 19, I think, when that came out. But there is there is a connection between what happens in the film and that song, and I wonder if that's why that was chosen. And then, of course, then we catch up with Natasha on in between Civil War and Infinity War, I guess. I can't remember. I can't even remember
Civil War
now.
and Infinity War, which is actually kind of like the same time. The other film that was sort of set retroactively was Ant-Man and the Wasp, and that was also set sort of technically between Civil War and Infinity War, except literally within days of Infinity War kind of kicking off.
Yeah, and the thing I have that's a bit of a problem here is in looking at the movie as it stands, I feel it would have been a better film being kind of moved between Infinity War and Endgame.
I don't think you could have told the same story though.
I think you kind of. I think you could have, because I think Dreykov is the type of person who would have, had he survived the snap, taken a total advantage of the chaos brought about by the snap, and I really think that there might have been a meatier film in there. Not the film wasn't meaty, but I really enjoyed it. But I think that I think the better placement for it would have been between the next two films rather than Civil War. Personally,
I don't know that I agree, but I do think I'm in agreement that maybe it was to its detriment somewhat because of the amount of time that has passed, which they couldn't have really foreseen at the time. But the fact that it's like now 2 years after, there's been any other Marvel film, it's like, a year and a half late for its release date. It does feel like it's sort of set in this weird place in time that, that doesn't feel like it works as well as it might have if the film had come out on time.
And I think, the film feels slightly muted because of that, like, especially by the ending. I mean, yeah, we get that nice moment with the vest, and we understand that the thing, although, like, the thing is, if no one notes the vest in Infinity War, retroactively making it matter is sort of pointless. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it's a nice little wink.
Yeah, it's a nice moment, but as much as I like that moment and enjoyed it and enjoyed the stuff around it. So, yeah, I think it would have been a better movie set between Infinity and Endgame, personally. And I think it could have been done with just a few tweaks to the storyline. I like the fact that we get General Ross at the beginning. I like the kind of sleight of hand, which comes back later, where you think she's in one place and she's actually in another. And that kind of speaks to the duplicity and identity shifting in the film. Right. Because, all the widows, as we find out, are living a different identity, just unknowingly. And I really like that element of it. I honestly thought, actually, it's something I'm sure we'll pick up on later, but I honestly thought that by the end, it would be revealed that Natasha and Yelena had swapped places, and actually she'd been undercover the whole time during Endgame and all that stuff, and it would have been her that died and not. But hey,
really, is that what you thought? Okay, I
did kind of think that. So there's a couple of the comics, the Devin Grayson stuff. They do actually completely swap identities at one point, and I genuinely thought, they're gonna swap identities, and anyway. Sorry, I'm getting off track. I mean, we get this thing where, following Natasha around and watching her kind of try and live her life away from all of the superhero stuff now, which I again,
well, she's on the lam, she's hiding from Ross, and Cap's out in the wind, like all her friends are in jail, and so she's on her own.
Did you see? I'm always interested in the stuff in between the big stuff. I mean, I know we've talked about that before, and I think you probably feel that's to my detriment, but I'm actually always interested in like the downside. Like I would have been perfectly happy if Endgame had been a film about what happens to the world after the end of the world, after population dies. And I would have been perfectly happy to kind of low key just follow Natasha around while she lives her life on the run. I take great pleasure, especially as I've gotten older, in the moments between the moments. And I kind of almost get annoyed when the movie starts to intrude on on itself almost. But I was happy to see it here. You know, we get the Taskmaster.
Right. Yeah. So that's, you know, and I did enjoy those scenes where Natasha's just, you know, she's in some little like trailer or, you know, something out in the middle of nowhere. And we get to just kind of see her like, you know, getting her box of hair dye and, you know, drinking a beer like in her underwear, you know. Yeah, like that. I did enjoy that. But yes, as you said, you know, the generator goes. And she needs to go and get some sort of, you know, something to like charge her electricity back up. And as she's doing so, she's interrupted by an attack from the Taskmaster.
Yeah, I mean, before that, we see a scene where the widows are taking out an older Black Widow. And Yelena is sprayed with this mysterious gas that makes her suddenly remember who she is and kind of doesn't, you know, is no longer under control of whoever's controlling the widows, which was a great scene. Now, the problem I have is, so spoilers, guys, this will be a spoiler-heavy podcast, as you've probably guessed by now. I'll make sure something goes into the Twitter post so that no one kind of stumbles on it accidentally.
Yeah,
you know what we do by now.
As always.
You know what we do. Yeah. The problem I had with the Taskmaster stuff it's like, I knew he was going to be under that freaking mask.
Did you? Okay, because I actually, I will say that I didn't know who was going to be under that mask. I did really highly suspect it was going to be a female character, but I had my suspicions that it was going to be a different female character.
Right. Who do you want to leave it till later?
Why don't we leave it until a little later? Because I do want to get into that, because that is one thing that I, you know, I think I would have been a little more excited if had my, you know, predictions come true.
Okay, we'll get into this later, because I'm curious to see what you think. But anyway, so Natasha receives the vials of gas that are the thing that kind of frees the widows. I think they should have made a bit more of a big deal of that stuff. Like, it felt, the whole film actually felt low key. Do you know what I mean? Like, it actually, apart from the action sequence, a lot of this dramatic stuff actually felt really almost pushed under the surface a little bit. And I that kind of, in, you know, there was, I didn't feel there was any moment where someone urgently says, you know, oh, it's this and this is the thing, and I think it really needed that in the early stages. I loved the action sequence between Taskmaster and Natasha. Like, I thought that was great. That was beautifully shot. I love the mood of Norway and that bridge and the lighting and the mist coming in. I just thought that was fantastic. And the actual action sequence itself was really well done.
Yeah.
And right away you see the moves. You see Cap, and you see, you know. Yeah. Some of the stuff.
Throughout you see, you know, you end up seeing Hawkeye a little later on when she's shooting the arrows, when they're, you know, there's another action scene where they're being chased by Taskmaster, and, you know, so you kind of get, like, you know, all the different Avengers like fight moves and stuff, which is cool.
And you see, in fact, she is studying, isn't she studying moments from Civil War almost? Yeah. When we see the Taskmaster
for the first time. Yeah.
I liked the kind of smile moment with the widow. Like, that was interesting. Like, I just really liked those little touches that are just really good for feel and texture. Now, we don't see Dreykov as yet, because as far as we know, he's dead. Natasha and Yelena meet in Hungary. They get into a fight straight away,
which is like one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a really well done piece of choreography, and actually gives you a lot of character as well. Yeah, I felt you were getting from that. One assumes that Yelena knew it was Natasha who walked in the room when she, like,
right before
I'm guessing, yeah. And I like their kind of bickering nature, and it then gives way to an actually even better action sequence where the widows come in and try and take down Natasha and Yelena. I love that sequence. Like, I've got to say, up to a point, all the action was superb. Yeah. You know, and I think it's there's been a lot online talking about, well, you know, the action sequences. I don't know what you're talking about. They were great.
Yeah, I thought, like, you know, like particularly, like, you know, yeah, like you said, some of those early scenes, you know, the fight between Natasha and Elena, the widows, Taskmaster, all of it was really great. So I don't know what people are complaining about there. I mean, you know, maybe later on, as the movie gets more bombastic, you know, you kind of lose some of these like really well choreographed fight scenes.
And there's another issue for me, which is, I think, given the extra 2 years they had to work on this, or extra year and a half, they would have got. But I get why they didn't, because I feel that they probably didn't want to start doing more work on it if they felt that, oh, in like 3 weeks' time, we could be told, no, the film's going out, you know. But I thought the visual effects were actually subpar in some places, subpar for Marvel, and subpar for modern CG. Particularly the prison sequence. I was just like, some of this looks bad. And I think part of the problem is, as I say, they probably didn't want to go back and retouch it in case at any minute, because it is a big thing to go back and start stripping that stuff out and doing it all again. So I get why they didn't. I don't want to knock the hard work of the visual effects artist and the director. But yeah, there was some stuff. The car chase sequence in Hungary was sort of 90% great, I thought. I felt that the kind of tank rolling down the streets didn't look real enough in places for me. But I love the idea that it just rolls on in and, you know, cars are flying everywhere.
Yeah, I like when it goes like straight into the underground, you know, and they're sliding down the you know, the yellow escalator, and you know, all that was.
The thing with the car door was superb. I really loved that. And Elaine was just like, this was a shit plan. Like, I liked her attitude. I thought Florence Pugh was amazing in this.
Like, she was amazing. She was amazing. Like, Elena was like, you know, just a total sort of burst of fun.
But I feel in a lot of ways they kind of muted Scarlett Johansson to bring up the volume of
Elena.
Yeah, I had a real problem with that. It's just like, you know, I get that the movie's called Black Widow, and that name can be applied to
both of them and many more women, but yeah, I know what you're saying. I know, and I think we can go into that a little bit more after we just kind of, you know, kind of work our way through the beats of the story. But
and you know, the rescue of Ivan, I like the nice touch of the noughts and crosses games in the air system in the train station where
Hawkeye and Natasha had been hiding out.
I love the little touches like Budapest versus Budapest. Like, again, there are so many nice little moments in this that I thought were really well played. It's clear that whoever's kind of designing the action sequences, I want to say that I hope Kate Shortland had a massive hand in them. However, it's my understanding that there's one director who I think quit. It might have been Patty Jenkins. One of her issues was, and again, if I'm getting this wrong, I'm sorry. One of her issues when she was going to do Thor: The Dark World was, and you know, let's design the action sequences, and Marvel were like, no, someone else will come in and design those. Right. And she was just like, no, I will design the action sequences. And that was one of the things that built up to her walking from that movie. And there's definitely something there to be said about that. And I think that whoever is designing the action sequences clearly has a fascination with the Mission Impossible films, which I will say are, and I'm very sorry to all other movies right now, but are the high bar for that kind of cinema. Like, I think even more than the Marvel movies, even more than Nolan's Batman films, I think the Mission Impossible stuff is the high bar for action thriller cinema right now. So I completely get why they
are maybe
why they look.
Yeah, sure.
And of course, everyone's kind of pissing in the same pool right now. In that, if everyone's doing globe-trotting, car-smashing adventures, what are you going to do? Like,
right? Yeah. How do you keep topping yourself?
Yeah.
How do you keep changing it up? Sure. Now, I did enjoy the prison break sequence. You know,
I did, yeah.
Whether or not, like, you know, the CG and all that was always perfect, you know, maybe not, but the actual sequence itself with Alexei, you know, we kind of get to see what he's been up to, which is rotting away in a prison cell, arm wrestling guys while sort of bragging about, you know, all the times he beat up Captain America.
It's a big debate right now. Could he have actually met Captain America? Because everyone's going to go, well,
it seems very unlikely, because Captain America during his whole tenure was buried under the ice. So basically, no, is the answer. So it's you know, it is all kind of his own, like, you know, he's sort of set up as this, like, you know, has been sort of figure who maybe was briefly a superhero, and, you know, sees Captain America as like his contemporary, and, you know, but Captain America has probably never heard of him is really the upshot.
So I love that idea though, and I love the whole kind of the arm wrestling thing is great, and I love his bombast and his kind of pomposity.
David Harbour was like having the time of his life. I thought, you know, as far as standout characters in the movie,
like,
I mean, Alexei was a lot of fun.
I feel a bit sorry for David Harbour, because he's always a guy that looks like he's in a lot worse shape than he's actually in, and looks a lot older than he actually is. Because, and that plays out. You know, you get that big rescue. The avalanche was great. I like that idea. And of course, Yelena's attitude is, "Oh, this would be a cool way to die," and it's just like, what are you talking about? Like, I want to get out of this alive.
I mean, you know, being Yelena, she just like she's kind of lived her whole life, you know, probably, you know, thinking she could die at any moment. So, you know, she's really blithe about it. She's just kind of, oh yeah, that looks kind of cool.
Yeah,
wouldn't be a bad way to go.
I just thought all of that was a great sequence, and I like the beats, and that's the thing is I think the film does the little beats really well, and I love Milena with the pigs. I thought that was a nice little touch where she's kind of, you know, she's taught the pigs, or she's controlling the pigs to do whatever they want, and that whole kind of safe word thing of "go home where it's safe" is an interesting thing when applied to the film, because of course Natasha does go home, but it isn't safe, and right. I like that idea of kind of taking that and putting that in, and then the relationship between Natasha and Yelena is great. I love the whole superhero pose thing. That's a great scene, and I thought those moments really played out well, and I really think it speaks to Kate Shortland's ability as a director to make those moments work 100%. Like, her other films are, as with a lot of the Marvel directors, are a million miles away from this stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen any of her other films.
I think so. I know she did a movie called Somersault,
which is great, and that's an early kind of Sam Washington movie, I think. Sam Worthington, sorry, and it's really worth a watch. And interestingly enough, it's got an actor in it who I think might have made a good Yelena or Black Widow had she done that movie then. You know, but yeah, fantastic. All that relationship stuff, breaking Alexei out, going to see Milena. We're then back into
the family dynamic.
Which the dinner scene was great. Alexei trying to put on the super suit again, the Captain America, the Captain Red Guardian suit. There was apparently going to be a moment where he gets stuck and has to call for help, but I think they cut it at the last minute. But parts of it are left in the movie, and of course, then we see the widows come back in to take down these guys. I love the moment with the tranquilizer darts. Again, any moment Harbour gets his kind of pomposity pricked is great.
Oh yeah, I mean, he got all the laughs. Like, I mean, him and Elena really got all the laughs.
Did you Did you realize watching it that the kind of them getting captured was a ruse all along? Did you know that as that scene started?
As it started, no. I actually have to say, it managed to dupe me, which is pretty good. And but of course, it's like that moment in Winter Soldier where Jenny Agutter takes off the the mask, which in both instances, I was kind of like, I still kind of wanted it to be just Jenny Agutter, her character actually just taking down all those dudes. Still not over that, but I adore that moment with Alexei making the big speech of not once but twice, and twice getting told no. Sorry, first of all, no, I'm not the person you think I am, and then no, we didn't give you. We ran out of earpieces. I know, yeah, that was great.
I thought that was incredible.
But it was nice. It was nice to see. I actually did really care about you, Natasha. Although of course, he'll never tell her, but he tries.
And it's interesting that actually he's still kind of Mother Russia, and he does say at one point, "I wanted the party to be a party, not a joyless kind of." I don't think he ever gets to finish saying what he's saying, but it's interesting that he is very much kind of still rooting for Russia and for the old ways, for communism. And I thought it was kind of an interesting way for Marvel to go in. It's an interesting direction.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Red Guardian. In the comics, I wouldn't call him a hero. It's like. And so basically, it's in keeping with his character, but he's a lovable sort of would you call him a villain either? No, at least in the movie.
Yeah.
No.
He funny enough, he turns up in Kelly Thompson's and Elsa Casagrande's latest run of Black Widow. So he's in the opening 5 issues of that. He's one of the sort of cabal of villains there. And his reasons for being part of that group, when you get to it at the end of the story, are actually okay, because obviously Alexei in the comics was Natasha's husband at one stage, not her. It wasn't the sort of father figure. They played it very differently here. But we get to the big takedown and the meeting Dreykov. Now Ray Winston, I'm sorry, the accent. Oh, that was all over the shop. Yeah,
it's a weird bit of casting, I've got to say. I mean, he's a fantastic actor, but I just don't know that he suited the role.
Right. I quite like his heft and his physicality. I'm just not sure he should ever be allowed to play things other than English, because his accent in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was not good. Great. But I think there is this tendency, interestingly enough, for anytime you put Russians on screen, is to usually have them played by English people and have them speak in a sort of quasi-English accent. I don't know why. I don't know where that came from, but I got a feeling it's something to do with Tinker Tailor and things like that, and I think it comes from the British television tradition. But for movies, if you go back and look at things like Gorky Park with William Hurt, funnily enough, William Hurt does this quasi-English accent in, he's an American actor doing a quasi-English accent, and Michael Elphick, who's an English actor, plays a Russian guy in that, and he does a quasi-American / English accent as well to kind of make it. It's so bizarre. I don't know where that tradition comes from. But yeah, I could have done without that. Now, the big reveal, One is that we go through the film thinking that Dreykov's daughter was killed by Natasha, along with Dreykov.
Right, and this is something that's supposed to weigh on Natasha's conscience.
Yeah,
because she killed an innocent.
Yeah. Okay. Now,
and this is this comes from like a moment in the first Avengers movie. A lot of this plot comes from that conversation she had with Loki in the first Avengers movie, where he's basically listing off things that are dripping red in her ledger. Dreykov's daughter. And then you get that other exchange where she and Hawkeye talk about, oh yeah, you remember Budapest very differently, than I do. So you're actually filling in a lot of these blanks from things that fans just liked to speculate about from the first Avengers movie.
Here's the problem I had. Okay, I knew exactly who it would be when they took off that mask.
Right. Okay, I didn't. I will give you that, but
I did. Can I tell you why I knew?
Go on.
Because her name is in the opening credits and she's not in the first half hour of the movie.
Or just credited her at the end of the movie, obviously.
Not
opening credits. Yeah. No, you're totally right. That's because I didn't actually pick up on that. But
who did you think it was going to be?
Okay, it's not just me. There's kind of a fan, there was a sort of a fan theory. Because, when I saw, they're doing Taskmaster, and, the whole look of Taskmaster is that anybody could be under the suit. And because this was like such a heavily female driven movie, I was like, there's going to be a woman under that suit. I practically guarantee it.
Yeah.
Especially when they kind of carefully gave you no character at all for Taskmaster. It was like, okay, so, if they, just the way they played it, I was like, okay, it's going to be a woman. And I think for emotional resonance, I didn't really feel anything when they revealed that Taskmaster was in fact Dreykov's daughter, Antonia. It kind of, in a way, I just feel like it takes away a little bit, rather than adds, to Natasha's character, because it's like, oh no, don't worry, you didn't actually kill an innocent. You don't really have to feel guilty about that. And, that had been sort of obviously something that weighed on her. And it's like, oh, okay, well, then you've just kind of unnuanced her a little bit,
Sure, but I think part of the movie was meant to be a redemptive thing where she gets to forgive herself but not quite forgive herself, because obviously she has,
disfigured her.
Yeah.
Sure.
And sort of robbed her of a lot of her identity, and then a lot of that plays out into the movie. I think Yelena and Natasha are meant to be slightly interchangeable. The movie does play with that a little bit, and of course, Melina and Natasha swap places in the film physically.
Okay.
And then there is a nod to a movie, a very famous movie called Les Yeux Sans Visage, Eyes Without a Face, which is a film about a guy who cuts off women's faces and grafts them onto the head of his daughter, who has been horribly disfigured in a car accident. And that whole thing of Yelena being cut,
right,
there, it is actually kind of, I think, a nod to that. Which is a very creepy film. If you get a chance to watch it, do it. It's an amazingly bizarre film. But
yeah, to finish my theory.
Yes, sorry, please.
And
don't give me that look.
As I was saying.
Were you? I didn't notice. Go on.
It's not just me, but for the sake of like the sort of the emotional impact of the story, and you would have had to change a lot of the things that preceded the reveal. I think it would have been a much stronger reveal had it been Melina under the mask. So obviously, you would have had to change, them coming to find her raising the pigs, but she is still working for Dreykov. She's the only one who has the entire time been working for Dreykov. Sure. And why not have it be her who was sort of the ultimate manipulation of Dreykov? Wouldn't that have been a much sort of more resonant moment for Natasha, to have the reveal be take off the mask and it's, basically her mother figure, who was a puppet for Dreykov the whole time. As she said, she had been cycled through the Red Room 4 times before Natasha was even born. And so, I think for the overall sake of the story, that would have been a much stronger reveal.
Mm.
Because I didn't really feel a whole lot about it being Antonia. Personally.
There was some, I didn't know if it would turn out to be a guy, and it would turn out to be, OT. I can't pronounce his last name, Fabignali, who was great as Rick Mason. I really liked him. Now, does he have any basis in the comics? Do you know?
Mason? I don't. Not that I know of.
Yeah, he's not a character I know. And again, I feel there wasn't enough done with that relationship. I liked it, but there wasn't enough done.
Right. Yeah. You were kind of left wanting a little bit because it was a couple fun exchanges and he served a little bit of a function in the story, but he also didn't have to be there at all.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. He really didn't. And I feel a bit bad for him as an actor. But again,
maybe they'll bring him back. I mean, I could see him having this kind of semi-throwaway role in this movie, but then being kind of brought into another role. I mean, as the MCU is wont to do, they'll take a small, character who, fans just take a shine to and, kind of keep using them. So
he would have been great in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I mean, I like the idea that the Red Room has become S.H.I.E.L.D., and they're up there in the clouds floating, like the helicarriers and all that. It really kind of moves into science fiction by then, I think, personally.
I think one thing, yeah. Okay. Or sorry,
yeah,
carry on.
No, please.
I think before we kind of, because obviously we're kind of coming up, we're up in the sky. We've got Natasha facing off against Dreykov. We get this whole sort of moment where we find out that he's got pheromones that she can't she's not physically able to harm him because of these pheromones he's projecting or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of this showdown between them. And we've got we know we've got all the other brainwashed widows on the ship as well, kind of, at his beck and call. And yeah, before we kind of wrap up, what happens next, I do want to kind of address the whole idea of what I think, and what I think Scarlett Johansson has even kind of commented, all of this stuff with the widows,
please, yeah,
and Dreykov kind of represents, which is Harvey Weinstein and the Me Too movement.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that correlation.
It's very, very. It's when you watch it, because I've watched it twice now, and especially on the second viewing, I was like, yeah, this is almost heavy-handed. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Okay, I won't say that. But it's
no.
It's very obvious.
If that's how you feel, not.
It's very, it's like, if you're looking for it,
sure,
it's very clear that is the correlation they're kind of making.
I think it's impossible these days, though, to have that sort of storyline without making that correlation, though.
No, I don't agree. I think that's what they were going for.
No, but do you not agree? If it had been anything else, it would have been I mean, it's impossible not to say it's a feminist movie. Do you know what I mean? I think all those things kind of get tied together. And
yeah, sure, it's a feminist movie, but what I mean is they're very directly sort of positioning him as this figure, and all of these women who are brainwashed and being used as they're all the only expendable natural resource that's left is girls, and
But Liz, to be fair, do you not think that if they hadn't made that correlation, the audience would have? I just think that the audience would have seen it whether it was there or not. I
just because it's a feminist story?
No, but I mean, with those particular beats, even if no one had said, yeah, this is kind of Harvey Weinstein, the Me Too movie, I think the press and us as an audience would have made that leap anyway. So I think it's probably better for them to say it and say, yeah, the movie's about this than.
Okay, I think we're having a conversation that like I think you're thinking I mean something I don't, but
no, I get what you're saying. Like I think, but like even if they hadn't, like that might not have been their intention when they made it.
I think it was. I think it very like
okay.
Yeah,
I'm not so. I think. As with a lot of movies, it's easier to attach meaning afterwards.
That was well, yeah, but
I don't know. Yes,
movie when it was being made, it was. I mean, as I said, Scarlett Johansson has basically said, "Oh yes, that is what this is about." And at the time it was being made, which is now a couple of years ago, that stuff was just like had really blown up in the headlines and was like a
And she's certainly someone who would have had to deal with.
She worked with him on several movies, Harvey Weinstein.
And so I think if she's exercising that ghost, fine. I mean, it's a tough thing. I can't really I think it's difficult for me as a guy to comment on that stuff in any way, except to say that I completely sympathise with the people who've gone through that. I don't. Do I find it heavy-handed? I don't know. I just don't know. It's not a correlation I made while watching the movie.
Okay, I definitely I especially on my second viewing, I really did.
I think the correlation I made was coercive control and things like that, and I think that stuff is certainly prevalent and important to the story. So I like that. That was the correlation that I made.
Right. I mean, like,
and of course, things like trafficking of young women, which of course is horror. I actually find one of the more horrifying things.
Sure. I mean, obviously, world, there's plenty of like just on the surface like horror to be had, and like and all of which, especially when you find out that things like the Red Sparrow program and all of that like existed in reality. Is just horrible right on the face of it. But as a metaphor for this other thing, you kind of, if you kind of read between the lines when they're talking about the widows themselves, like, oh yeah, like 1 in 20 of us will make it. The other ones are all killed. But they have to do horrible things to get there. And, and they're brainwashed and, so all of that, it's like, there's a lot of metaphor going into it.
Absolutely. Do you think the film's better for that? I mean, I found
it more interesting for that.
Right.
I think because like there, like I said, on my first viewing, I didn't pick up on it as much, but on the second viewing, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting that's what they're, what they're commenting on in a lot of ways. And, for the time that it was being made, I think it was really, really topical. Of course, now that's.
Sure.
I mean, and I wouldn't say that that stuff isn't topical now, but I think it was like, at the moment it was just really, loud in all the headlines, on everyone's, sort of Twitter feed, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of, I think there's a lot in that. I mean, it's weird now that we're again dealing with Russia as the enemy, which is a strange kind of. It's honestly something I never expected to see after the end of the Cold War. I genuinely thought, oh yeah, great, we're not going to have this again. But of course, here we are. So, and they do fall short of kind of pointing a finger at Russia. The general idea is that Dreykov is a kind of free agent who's just using a resource basically. Right. And selling that resource to everyone. And I think that's especially interesting considering that a lot of financial interests of a lot of people who own massive conglomerates are, undoubtedly crossover with Russia. So take of that what you will. I mean, most of all, I feel like it was a good movie by and of itself. I feel like did it have a need to exist? It only really needs to exist to introduce Yelena.
And I think that's what it does best.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, I think,
which is a shame.
Which is a shame, because I think in a lot of ways, Yelena, it was a fantastic introduction to her. Was it a great send off to Natasha? I don't know. Natasha, I like Scarlett Johansson, throughout these films, I have loved her as Natasha, but I felt like this being her solo film is a little bit of a letdown because it didn't really feel like her film. I loved it. Okay. I loved it. And I think that she gave a great performance, but I do feel like the strongest performances and the strongest moments were given to Yelena and Alexei, really.
Yeah.
And that she was almost kind of a side player in her own movie. And, it's like, yeah, okay, the film was called Black Widow. And as we said before, that can apply to Yelena. It can apply to, all these other women who've just been liberated. But I kind of wanted it to really be about Natasha. So.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that as a send-off, it wasn't really fitting enough, especially right at the end. Like that last moment at the end was just like, what is this? Like, give her a bit of happiness. Give her someone to, I was hoping that she'd have some sort of relationship with Rick, if that's what the character needed. I would have liked that.
I don't think I would have liked that. I think I liked that the not romantic relationship, but the crux, the main relationship in the story, the love story was of sisterly love.
Yeah, sure. But I mean,
I didn't think there needed to be any romance. That didn't I think that it wasn't that kind of story for me.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, I felt that there could have been a bit more portent to it in terms of the fact that we know that eventually she's going off to her death, even though that's slightly kind of neutered because there's going to be a 5-year gap between her leaving now and beginning of Infinity War and the death itself. And again, it's one of the reasons why I think it'd be better placed in between Infinity War and Endgame. Just to give the thing more weight. There's now a big deal over whether or not Yelena was snapped. I mean, we've got to talk about the very final scene, the post-credits, mid-credit scene.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So
it's Yelena visiting the grave of Natasha and
with her dog Fanny Longbottom.
Which is, and of course, the Contessa, well, I can't even.
Valentina.
Valentina
Fontaine.
Yeah. So Julia Louis-Dreyfus turns up and apparently, reveals that Yelena has already been working for her on several missions. And she gives her another mission, which is, hey, this is the person that does she outright say that Clint killed?
No, she says, this is the person who's responsible for your sister's death.
And it's Clint. So we already knew that Florence Pugh was going to turn up in Hawkeye.
Yeah.
We
but now I'm know double excited for that.
Yeah. But as I think you've pointed out many times, they're definitely going for a Young Avengers feel.
Yeah. They're definitely going for Young Avengers, and they're definitely going for, I think, a Thunderbolt. I don't think Yelena is young enough to be on the Young Avengers team. But I could be wrong. I think that she is. I think she's destined to be a Thunderbolt.
Right. I mean, I'm curious to see. I don't know enough about the Thunderbolts. I've not read the series. I want to because it's done by one of my favorite writers, Kurt Busiek, and I really love his stuff. So I'm keen to see where that goes. And of course, it's very much going to be phases 4 and 5, I think. I don't have much to say about it, really. It's, it was a good little scene.
I think it locks down for me, like, what we, during our coverage of Falcon and Winter Soldier, all those fan theories about Val being sort of this, like, like dark
Nick
Fury character,
yeah.
like rounding up a Thunderbolts. It's like, okay, yes, confirmed. That is what is happening. Thank you very much. Can't wait. So, you know, that was a thrill for me. Would you have, like, you know, now watching the movie, if you hadn't watched Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think you'd be very confused.
Yes.
By that scene.
But this is part of the problem where they've gone, oh, don't worry, all these TV series are going to sit apart from. They're not. They're really not. So, you know, it's very much kind of, that's just going to be the future now, I think. But that's okay. I don't mind. I mean, I know you're certainly down to keep watching this stuff.
I am down.
And I know I am. So I think interesting things ahead. I think, yes, there was a slightly better movie to be had out of this, but I'm actually quite happy with what I got in terms of a piece of entertainment. I'll certainly be watching it again.
For sure.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm going to really miss Scarlett Johansson as Natasha, if this is in fact the last time we see her. I hope it's not.
I think what this has opened up, though, is much as we're to do what they feel that Star Wars couldn't do, which is to do stories in between the movies that have already gone. Right. I feel the Star Wars stories works really well. I hate all the criticism about that, but hey, that's, if you didn't like them, that's fine. But I really liked Solo and I really like Rogue One, and I would like to see them try again with that stuff somehow. But it opens up for them to do movies in between the movies now.
Yeah, which I think worked really great for Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think it worked great here, and I think I would agree with you that I would love to see a movie set during the snap. Like, I would actually love to see a movie set during that 5-year time period between. That's
got to be on the
Infinity War and Endgame. Yeah.
One of the things they've been talking about is they're going to reveal whether or not Yelena was snapped, and it's just like, why is that so important? And it can
People
only
just want to know. I think,
but it can only be important if she wasn't, right?
Right.
And I wonder if that's where we'll get the Thunderbolts. I wonder if the Thunderbolts have kind of already been formed in a way. And we just haven't seen the film yet. And what we're seeing now is the remnants of that.
I don't know, because I think that I don't think so. I want to say I don't think so, because I think we're going to see Val. I think we're going to see Val collect them.
Yeah, and I guess if we haven't had the US agent yet, then that's. Where do you guys think it's going to go? I would like to hear some comments from the audience. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. We are going to wrap it up in just a second. Principally because my missus is messaging me going, have you finished yet? Because
we've gone over an hour. But yeah, we would love to hear what you guys thought about the movie, what you guys are hoping to see next, what you guys thought of Yelena. Are you excited to see more of Yelena? So please just send us your thoughts in the comments on Twitter. To Paul's email at comiccrushpaul.
Paul at comiccrush.com if you want to email me. Sorry, Liz. But you can just tweet at the Comic Crush. I'm sort of on that every day. I'll be keeping an eye on that. Or tweet me at Comic Crush Paul. Liz, you can tweet at Liz C. Jordan. She will pick up the thread there, or leave us a comment in the section. Hello to new subscribers, by the way, especially our new mysterious subscriber who just goes by their initials GL. We think we know who that is. We will get in touch, mate. I'm sorry. If it is who we think it is, we haven't been in touch with you for ages. I'm sorry. We will get in touch. We're just really bad at keeping in touch with people, and we do want to have a chat to you. But we'll be talking to that particular person later. Thank you for subscribing, though. I really appreciate it. Again, we appreciate all the support you give us, guys. Do keep watching. Back again soon. I think the next one out of the gate is the Aliens video that I've just recorded today with Nikki. Then just after that, it will be Superman 2 with Keith. And then there'll be some bonus Patreon stuff if you want to sign up to the Patreon, which you can do from £2 a month. And you'll get the bonus video and podcast stuff that we do if you sign up to that first tier. £2 a month. Ain't much, guys. You can do it. I really appreciate it if you do. But thank you for watching. Liz, anything else you want to say before we bug out?
Just, go see Black Widow. Go see it in the
Yes.
cinema. Help out that box office numbers,
Sure. I mean, I've elected not to see it at the cinema, but again, I'm not saying to the detriment of either way of seeing it. That is, of course, available on Disney Plus and at cinemas now. Thank you, Liz, for taking the time to do this. As always, I really appreciate your knowledge and enthusiasm of the Marvel Universe. Do keep in touch, folks. We're out of here. Goodbye.
Bye.